That workout was just exactly what I needed to get in here, man. That was awesome.
So we have this new tradition. If you come to this podcast, and I don't care if you're a lawyer who've never worked out in his life, or you just haven't, you forgot how to be fit, you're gonna work out.
So he had it in his mind that he was moving and he did not need to pay us.
Why did they go out of business? What's the official reason?
Nobody really knows. And especially in a real estate transaction, that didn't last long because I lost pretty much everything except a couple properties.
If you have a mortgage in a house, you have equity, and you bought a loan for the next 20, 30 years, wherever, to save money, and then you still have 25 years left 5 years later on a loan, so you did not save shit, that's the dumbest thing ever. Welcome back to Roofing Insights Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Hunter Adams built his mini empire. If that would be a roofing company, it would be equivalent to $60 million in business, different profit margins, but he has very unique business model. It's called Detach and Reset Solar. He works with the roofing companies, assists them with the resetting solar panels. We'll talk all about his industry and the roofing industry, of course. Welcome to the show, brother.
Man, it's awesome to be here. That workout was just exactly what I needed to get in here, man. That was awesome.
So for those of you who are new here, so we have this new tradition. If you come to this podcast, and I don't care if you're a lawyer who've never worked out in his life, or you just haven't, you forgot how to be fit, you're gonna work out. And I will create custom workout, to your capacity. I figured that this guy has a background in wrestling, you said?
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. I probably should not have told you that. And, you pushed me hard. No, it was really good. The workout was intense. And, you said something in there. It was like, hey, it's just like business. It's going to get easier every round. And, the truth is, I kept thinking about that, and the workout did get a little easier. I got more accustomed to it.
Here's what we did today. He's been in business for 5 years, so we did 5 rounds. First round was detach and reset 150-pound sand balls. After that, we did push and carry. So we push the slat and we carry a yoke. Just like in business, you push people and you carry people on your shoulders. And the question of the day, what's harder in our businesses? Is it harder to carry people who are not there yet when we train them, when we step up with their, not delivering and covering their weaknesses? And sometimes you have to push people. Even your best performance people, you have to push them so they work to the full of their capacities, of their talents. So the question of the day, comment below. What's harder, to push people or to train and, carry them on your shoulders? Now, what was the hardest for you in the workout?
Like I think the hardest was the dead weights. What is that called? Where you pick it up and you put it back on the
sandbags clean.
The sandbag clean. I think that was probably.
I call it detach and reset.
Detaching it off of the podium, putting it back up. A lot of core strength. I realized a lot of muscles.
Just what you do with the solar business.
Yeah.
In your business, exactly. You're removing the panels, you put them back up.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty tough. I realized I had a lot of core muscles I hadn't been testing, and realized, hey man, I should push myself a little harder in the workout. So
how did it feel between the rounds?
I almost threw up the omelet I had a couple of times. I was looking at him. I'm like, I think they might actually get a footage of me actually throwing up. I think if I would have told you I would have been in business 6 years, I think that 6th round I probably would have thrown up. But
I see.
Made it through. The sauna was tough too.
How was the sauna?
The sauna, it's 200 degrees in there, and I was like, we did 2 8-minute rounds and then like a 10-minute round, and I mistakenly left my water bottle in here. I brought it here, and it actually melted the water bottle, and
it will melt the plastic there.
And I was like, wow. But no, it was intense. It was a great workout.
Awesome. I love the start of the day. For me, if I don't work out in the morning, I can't be myself during the day. Like, that's what sets me in, and that's what I love. But Let's talk about your business. I want to dive right in. And actually, the first question that I want to start with, because I don't want it to be spicy. I want to understand your industry. I wanted you to explain exactly what you do. But I want to start with this complaint. So it's 1-star review on Google. I read your response. I read complaints, and looks like this guy published a couple pictures, so he owes you money. And I want to talk about customer service because technically you're a third party. So you work for the roofing company, and then you work also for the homeowner. So it looks like this homeowner did not pay you, and I hate this situation. This, like, to me, it's one of the worst situations in business where the guy is selling his house, he pays you, later he cancels the check, and he publishes screenshots of your email to him. And actually, it's in a screenshot right here. And I'm reading. Hold on, let me read this. Your response. So you put a lien on the property, and he said something within the lines: "If you don't contact me, remove the lien. If you try to text me or call me, it'll be harassment. Just get it done." And you're like, "Good luck with that."
Yeah.
What was the situation?
So, I mean, the situation, and I mean, when you're doing the amount of volume of jobs we're doing, stuff's going to happen. It's just, it's going to. And I mean, it was a textbook job. We were doing it for a large roofing company in Colorado, Premier Roofing. Well, they're nationwide. And we came, detached the exact day. We told them we were going to detach. We put the panels back the day we said we were going to put them back, passed the city inspection, and we reached out for payment over 90 days, and we sent a lien letter on the property, and we found out the new homeowner called us and said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Well, the old homeowner apparently didn't pay his bill."
So the new homeowner did the review, or the old?
No, the old homeowner. So he had it in his mind that he was moving and he did not need to pay us. That's what his thoughts were. So,
that's one of the worst customers out there.
Yeah.
But do you have agreement with the homeowner or just with the roofing company?
That's a good question. Depending if we're working on the homeowner, we have an agreement with the homeowner. If we're under the roofing company, their contingency contract ties into our work as well, because it's part of the insurance scope of work.
That's what I couldn't understand. But did the homeowner actually receive the money from insurance in this case?
Yes.
So he receives the money from the insurance company, plays dummy that he does not owe this money, or he already paid the roofing company, because the roofing company did not get this amount.
No.
So roofing company doesn't get it. He gets the money, and how often does it happen that homeowners pretend like they don't understand how insurance work?
It's very frequent, and it's because we're pretty much the last trade coming in and reinstalling the panels. So they see all this money in their bank accounts, and then typically the deductible money ends up being basically, because we're the end, it ends up being like what they have to pay us, and it gets kind of, they kind of get really tricky with it, and they're like, "Oh, well, I thought we didn't know this. We paid the roofing company." I'm like, "No, this contract you actually are paying us." And then some of them don't have the money. They try to set up payment plans, or they just try not to pay, like that gentleman. And we have our whole lien department. We have an entire department that's responsible for filing the liens and then contacting the attorneys, and that's what we had to do for this particular case.
Did he end up paying?
So this is how it went down. He said, "Okay, I'll pay you. I need a lien release letter by Friday." And I said, "Okay, no problem. We'll get you the lien release." So he paid. We sent him a lien release, and then he canceled the payment. And
who does that?
And then left us a bad review for a textbook job. This was a textbook job.
But how can you take him to small claims for canceling the check?
In my eyes, if people don't really have the money, it's not worth it. If something's over 10,000, we'll go.
Did he say that he doesn't have money?
I don't know. He just kind of acted like it was harassment.
That guy, if I would have to guess, he would never show up in court. So it costs you like $150 to file, and then you just drive there for 1 hour. He doesn't show up. You have a judgment against him.
Yeah.
And then if you know where he banks, you go and you garnish his account, freeze his account. That's how you get paid. I have a homeowner who did the same thing to us. I told my lawyer, just file $150. It's cheap. And then he filed. I showed up. She didn't. I got a judgment. And then I knew where she was banking. I go to the bank. So it's a 3-step process. You file a small claim. You go to the court. They don't show up. And if they do show up, you're still going to get either judgment, decision, because there's no argument here. Like it's not like they disputed the work. And then you go to the bank and you show the paperwork from the judge, and they freeze that account. I remember one homeowner lady, she messaged me. Well, she emailed us like, "Oh, my account is frozen. Oh, I'm sorry." And it was like $3,000-$4,000. It wasn't a bit, but even $3,000-$4,000 for 3 hours of work is $1,000 an hour. That's worth my time. Just as a principle, I don't. You have kids. How much stuff you can do with your kids for $3,000-$4,000, $5,000? This job, what, 5-6 grand?
Yeah, it was $5,000.
Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. It's a nice weekend for the family of 2, 3, 5, whatever.
Yep.
You can do so. So often we limit ourselves in, we don't take care of ourselves, but we forgive others. Like for me, if there is no reason, and to me this is no reason, if there is no dispute, like it's just a theft. I call it a theft. He stole from you.
Pretty much, yeah.
And if he did it to you, he will do it to other people. And those usually patterns of behavior repeat. He's a bad human being. He treated you that way. Anyway, for me, I don't care if I have $1 million on my account. I still will chase the $2,000-$3,000.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should push my attorney a little harder, but yeah, that's a very good point.
I mean, you don't need attorney. Just you file a small claims. It's a very easy process. It's just a matter of showing up or not showing up. How often do you have to file liens or?
So this is an interesting story. So as you know, you have good roofing companies and bad roofing companies. 90% of the time, roofing companies are responsible for paying us. We act as the subcontractor. Well, last year there was a bunch of hail, and you think it'd be really good for, you think it'd be good for the contractors. However, these contractors, a lot of them do not have the financial education to manage their money. They don't know where it's going. They have a bad accountant, and then they're not paying us because we're last, even though they're getting an ACV and an RCV check, and then we're sending out, a demand letter. We give them, 90 days is sufficient. I think in Colorado, most of our work is Colorado, but we're sending lien letters at, 90 days. But last year we filed 139 liens.
139. And those were against homeowners because contractors did not pay.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
So you're pretty much doing it to force the contractor to pay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But those are the only rights that we have as subcontractors to be able to collect. If we furnished materials and labor, we're entitled to our contract amount.
In those 139, how many of them are in disputes, like where contractors claiming that you did something wrong and you didn't deliver, like legit disputes?
Probably less than 2%. Most of those we work out and we say, hey, like one time we forgot a piece of skirt to put a piece of skirt around solar. And I said, hey, how about we knock off $800 and we'll settle this right now. And they did. But a lot of times when the homeowners get involved, then the contractors are kind of like, okay, my plan kind of failed, because a lot of them, they just had no intention of paying us, and we had to switch our model. And those are mainly guys that are sending us 1 or 2 jobs, because 80% of the people we work with, they're only sending us 1, 2, or 3 jobs a year. And those are typically the ones that are having issues paying us.
Who usually doesn't pay the bills? Is it the bigger companies or the startups? If you see the pattern there, like what's the pattern?
Mainly smaller companies, for sure. Mainly smaller companies, but there's been some big names that I'm not going to mention, but that could not pay their bills last year.
What do you think is behind it? Is it just like you said, lack of financial education, lack of integrity, or just some forces that they cannot control?
I think all those factors play a role in it. I think poor financial education. I think having probably a poor accountant and CPA. They're not investing in accounting or CPAs. I think that's huge, because they're not getting monthly reports. They're not educating themselves on how do you read a balance sheet? How do you know what's going on? And then poor spending habits. They're just going out buying this and that because so many contracts are coming in.
So do you see people who don't pay your bills living a lavish lifestyle?
Yeah, they usually get a DM on Facebook, and hey man, what's going on? Hey, this bill's overdue, just to let you know. Oh yeah, we'll take care of that. But no, I think it all boils down to education, because in the roofing industry, what you see is you see these guys that are very, very, very good at going out and getting contracts, right? Getting contracts signed. But then you have the production management, the accounting, receivable, payable, and those are the issues those are the areas I think that a lot of business owners struggle with, including myself. If I didn't have a good business partner, I would be struggling in the exact same way,
It's crazy to me because you're an American-based company. Your English is perfect. You're accounting. You run legit business, but imagine being an immigrant where you don't have invoices. Like I remodel this house. Few guys who help me with the projects here, like bathroom or a small one. Like I just ask for a referral. Hey, do you know someone for this? Because I was in a bind to do it super quick. Couldn't be on the wait. I have tile guys, flooring guys, but everybody's like 4 or 5 weeks out. So I'm like, I need someone next week, right? So I got few guys in, and I did not see invoices. I did not sign contracts, and I'm like, guys, you realize, like, and then I'm realizing myself, if I would be crooked, it's so easy not to pay someone who's just so trusty, right? Like they trust you. They're like, well, this guy cannot screw me. Well, but that's how it usually happens. So you have agreements with them. They know you know where to find them. You will be filing liens if they don't pay you, and they still don't pay you. But a lot of Spanish crews, they're not gonna do any of it. So contractors just like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah, and they do that to us too. Oh well, they're not going to do anything, and then we do, and then it's their reputation,
Love it. Let's talk about your journey. How did you start in this industry? What did you do before?
Sure.
And how did you come up with this idea?
So I was college was not for me. I dropped out a while ago, and I was like, I got to get into a trade. I like working outside, and I was living in Virginia at the time, and I was like, well, I saw this solar panel school. I'm like, oh man, like green industry, this is going to be the future. Like this is my go-to. This is what I'm going to do. So I fly to Colorado, and I start going to solar panel school, and I'm like, well, I don't have any
Solar
money.
panel school?
Yeah, solar panel technology school.
Okay.
Yeah, they
I
had
did not
one
know
there.
they have one.
Yeah, there's a few over the country.
Did you learn a lot? What do they teach?
I wouldn't say I learned a lot. I would say I got in with the professors, and I wanted to learn how to run a company. And
How long is the school for?
I think it was nine months.
9 months.
It was like a tech.
What can you learn? Like, what can you teach for 9 months?
I don't know. I was there for the connections. Like that's when I.
But
really
what do they teach? Like, what kind of curriculum?
AC, like AC electricity, DC electricity, like a basic installation class. I mean, it was mainly book work. I didn't really learn that much other than the connections from professors. Okay. That was about it. But
what kind of degree, what diploma you get?
It was a just solar technology certificate, trade school, just basic. It was nothing. Yeah, nothing crazy. But the whole time I was there, I needed money, and I saw all these ads running, and it was for selling roofs door to door, and I was like, well, I'll give this a try. It sounded promising, and I was out there, and we started knocking doors, and I did really well. Made like 20 grand my first month, and I was like, this. I mean, it felt like a fortune. I mean, it was. I was like, couldn't believe it. I was like, sales is my ticket to everything, and then it was going really good, and then I saw like all these roofs that weren't getting done because they had solar panels, and none of the other roofing companies wanted to touch them. It was a huge liability. It was like Tesla, and I was like, I want to start I was like, this is my ticket. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to help contractors and homeowners actually solve this problem and mitigate having to go to these large companies who don't really want to do this type of work. These big companies, Tesla, Sunrun, SunPower, Solcius, they were just sticking panels up like Legos, but then no one was planning for if someone had to come behind and clean up all this stuff. And that's what I was like, I want to have a company that does that, and I want to become, the best at it and do that. And that's where the idea came from. And I pulled a data list of, 1,800 roofing companies, and I called the whole list 3 times and created an email. And then we just started. I put together a couple crews that I went to solar technology school with, and I mean, we started doing it. I wouldn't say we were doing it well. We learned a lot along the way, but that's how it started.
Love it. Yeah. When was that?
That was 2019.
2019. How did you grow it so fast? Because now you're in 7 states. Like fast forward.
Sure.
How were you able to do the team? Because the recruiting is one of the hardest in the past few years. You were able to recruit, hire, and scale.
So it's interesting because like I came and I wanted this new life away from like rural Virginia, and I was like, okay, well, I want the entrepreneur route. So I started this as a side hustle because I really like to buy real estate. So I wasn't even fully in, I was just bouncing around here, bouncing around there, investing, trying to buy businesses here, not focused, thinking the mindset of, oh, the more streams of income you have, the richer you're going to be. Well, that didn't last long because I lost pretty much everything except a couple properties, made some very bad investments, picked some very bad partners. My back was up against the wall. This was 2.5 years ago. I wasn't fully in. Like this was, like I said, this was a side hustle, man. I didn't think I had what it took to take this and scale it big. I just wanted to make $1 million or $2 million a year, and just that was it. And buy property.
When did it switch? When did you realize that you have something?
So my back was up against the wall. I started getting foreclosure notices in the mail for some of the properties that I was flipping, and I had like little to no cash, and I just said, man, I got to focus on this. I got to find an operator, which I got to find an operator. And it's funny because I actually got a call from my current business partner, but I was like, I got to find an operator. I got to focus on sales. My back's up against the wall. I got to drive this thing to the max, and I got to go all in. And that's when the vision became clear. The focus was there. And I was like, I'm going to become the best at this and learn how to scale this. And that's kind of where it started. Back was up against the wall. No other option.
Typical entrepreneur journey. Usually before you take off, we all hit the ground. It's there's something in the universe for like, hey, you want to be successful? Try eat shit first.
Fail fast.
Fail fast. And then what happened next? You found new partners, new operators.
Yeah. So I'm big about manifestations, and I was in I've always been in my education. I invested in a training where it was, all about like, your future investing, your mental education. And I was like, I wrote out all my weaknesses, and I said, these are my top weaknesses. And I said, well, I need these to go to somebody else, because most people in sales, they're actually not that great at delegating stuff. And I was like, I just want that person, because I had never seen what a real business actually looked like. This was pure hustle. That's it. I got a call at the airport after I left the training. It was this guy I knew in real estate. He said, hey man, like my back's up against the wall. He said, I can create systems. I can create the best operations you've ever seen. I can recruit and train the guys, and all you have to do is build the relationships to drive the success. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, that's it. And it's the visionary integrator combo. And I said, look, man, I don't have anything like my back's against the wall. Let's run it. We were in an office literally as big as this carpet. That's where we started. And I just focused on sales and hiring and building a team and just developing that. And he developed the operations. And then that's when we were able to copy and paste and put our systems into place. We actually had every position had a system, a process. And that was the first time I'm like, oh, this is what it looks like to like big companies. This is what big companies have. And this is why they have the advantages. They have these pieces in place, and that's how it really started, how we took off.
Why solar maintenance and servicing over installs then?
Well, I kind of mentioned a little bit about this before, but I'm all for the green industry. I'm all for like making things better, but I just didn't believe that everything was good about solar. I knew there's a lot of benefits, but however, I knew there was a dark side, and there were things that the industry needed gaps filled. And we did new installs for a long time, but I said, this is no more. I said, my vision is maintenance, operations, detaching and resetting and repairing these systems for homeowners who have no solution. And that's why we stopped selling solar. This was probably 2.5 years ago. We just completely cut it out and said, this is going to be our only focus. And that's it. No new installs, because that's not our bread and butter, to be honest.
What's the biggest difference between your company and a traditional solar company?
So I think our company, I think innovation is like the biggest thing. I think actually, we're not just hiring subcontractors and going out there and performing work. It's like, no, these are our reports. Like, this is our quality control. This is how this is supposed to be done. Like, we literally had to write the manuals. On over 200 system types. So then every installer knows, like, hey, there's an SOP, a standard operating procedure for this specific job. So then we have it written out on this is how it goes. We're not just winging it. We're not just going up there and drilling holes in a roof. It's like, no, you have to go through the training in order to get through and become a lead and then move up as like a regional project manager and created a system like that, but mainly quality control. We have an entire quality control department because you got guys that are start coming in this trade and it's like, oh yeah, I can do this and that, you know, and I can put the panels back up and put them up. But what's really going on up there? Like, do you, as a contractor, most contractors don't know solar. Do they know? Are they double flashing? Are there certain parts you can't reuse? And a lot of these companies are, you know, reusing them. And I'd say we go to the max to deliver the best service and quality product, and even send a reports for the contractor. This is, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you should know. Hey, there's something here that you need to know about. And then same thing when we put it back. It's like, hey, here's the testing, here's the voltages, here's the photos, here's a copy. You know, and that's why I think we stand out better. And not only is just because we keep seeking to be the best at what we do. And we go to the big dogs, the $1 billion companies, the Freedoms, the Sunruns, and we start taking on work and we're actually showing them some of our SOPs and they're like, wow, like you guys actually know how to build out a maintenance and service department, because it's not easy knowing how to work on 200 different types of, you know, systems, because you can relate it to, it's like a carpet and a flooring guy. It's two different things. New construction roofing and re-roofing is probably two different things, and that's what it's like. It's like new installs, and then you have the maintenance, repairs.
Have you worked on the systems like Tesla? Or
Oh yeah,
you did?
yeah,
So you can remove and replace?
yeah. It took us a while to get certified with Tesla. They actually send us work directly, but their parts are so hard to get right now. They called and they're like, we know you guys are not, you know, you're not ordering all these parts because we're back ordered, but you guys are doing the work. And we said, well, look, these are the pucks we developed. These are the systems that we created. So you don't have to replace the entire racking system for the home, because could be a big homeowner expense or an insurance expense. And we said, hey, look, this is how we're doing it. And then Tesla said, wow, like you guys actually know how to put these back. And we showed them our whole SOP and how we're working on their systems. And
So who makes the best solar system in America today?
me personally, I say whoever's putting solar in the ground. I think I'm a big believer that even Elon Musk says, I think putting solar on the ground is the most efficient. I don't think putting it on rooftops is the
Why
most
is that?
efficient, because you have to think if you're in like a retail market like California and you put your solar system on a roof that's 10 years old, you're going to have to come out of pocket in 10 years for the detach and reset and your roof. It's a huge expense. Whereas if you have it in the ground,
But you're not going to be in business if they're going to put it on the ground. But do you think it's the best?
I still think it's the best. I mean, they're going to continue putting rooftop solar up, but we can maintenance the ground mounts, but it's just more efficient. They're
If I
easier
want to
work
put
on.
something in here, what advice would you give me? Where do I buy it? Like, what's the process? Can I do it myself? Like, put just on the field kind of thing.
You can do it yourself. I don't recommend that, especially ground mounts. They're a little more complicated, but you have to dig, you know, put all the wires underground and then connect it to your electrical. You have to pull a city permit. You have to do engineering and plans. And that's the first place I would start, to see if
What's more common, rooftops or rooftops?
rooftop, unless it's like commercial, like industrial, like wide open fields of just solar farms.
Got it. So most of your clients, what's the split between homeowners and contractors? How many do you work directly with the homeowners, or it's mainly contractors?
It's becoming more and more as we like work on our B2C marketing, business to consumer marketing, which is a lot of Google ads, Facebook ads. But I would say at this time, it's probably 85% contractors right now.
Repeated business.
Yeah, we work with, I think, about 1,600 contractors nationwide doing this specific trade.
Love it. What's your biggest challenge at the company as the company got bigger, or like today? What problems you're trying to solve?
Delegating was probably it's really hard once you've grown a company. It's like, this is my baby, like this is how I do things, like I don't want anybody to touch it because nobody can do it better than me. Like that's, and then micromanaging. Like it was really hard when my business partner came in and was like, dude, you got to hand this off. Like the only thing I need you to do is build really good relationships and just continue to innovate our product and get it out there. And I like literally remember like having nightmares for weeks when I had to give up positions to people. And it was like a really scary thing. But you have to understand is like, if somebody's even 60% as good as you are, like that's a win. If you're able to focus on your main strengths, like that's a win. And that's the attitude that I had developed in order to scale. And that was like one of the main things is delegation, because it was huge.
You posted about switching from 1099 and W2 model a few years ago. It was a huge topic in the roofing industry. Why did you do it, and how has been the results so far?
So we were a 1099 model because it seemed like less taxes, less overhead.
Everyone's doing it.
Everyone's doing it.
Everybody's used to it.
Yeah, and what we found is the quality was more poor. We had less control over quality. The company culture was, because guys could kind of do whatever you want. You could get up and leave, and you could stop working right now, and I can't do anything about it. So like there was no like team. We didn't really feel like you were on a team. The sales guys were kind of just doing their own thing, doing whatever. We had a couple guys try to take our business model and use it because they were 1099. Once we made the decision, we're like, hey, like we have to W2 everybody. It's going to be worth it. We had to do a price increase, but hey, the quality is going to be worth it. I mean, our culture improved from like a 5 to like a 9 immediately. People started caring. People believed in the mission. Because if you're like 1099, I come in and you're like, okay, well, you're just some guy. But it's like when you come in, it's like most people like, yeah, they care about money, but it's like they want to be a part of something that's actually going somewhere. Like they want to know like, hey, do you fit the core morals, values, ethics of the company? You know, if you do, great. We have a position for you. You know, we're going to try to get you to where you want to be in life and actually have that feeling throughout the company. When you have that feeling, I mean, you start having people line up to work for you. I mean, you don't even really have like, people are like, hey man, like, can I come work for you? Because they just want to be a part of that mission. And I feel like, yes, you could achieve that doing the 1099, but I prefer using the W2 model all day long.
Love it. What are the goals for the next 5 years? Will you be in all 50 states? Is that a goal?
I mean, I don't know about all 50. I mean, to be honest with
Not
you,
going
like,
to Alaska and Hawaii?
Hawaii would be good, but I mean, our niche is really like we really like storm states, because we can take on a lot of volume. We can help a lot of customers that way. I mean, but I mean, we definitely.
What's the
wanna
best
add
state for you to the business?
Colorado, Texas, Florida, Illinois, places where there's a lot of solar and a lot of storms are
Makes sense.
the best for us. California, I thought was going to be a really good market. It is not. It's not the best market.
Where's the solar going now? Like with all the laws and stuff, where is solar trending now? Because I know like California is pretty much dead. The regulations, they killed it. Is it Indiana, Midwest still?
Midwest trending, North Carolina, South Carolina. Those are like some of the newer states, even Georgia, even Tennessee, Kentucky. Like those are the really trending areas. Even Colorado's gone down. Freedom just pulled out of Colorado because there's a lot of the cities and counties are making it really difficult to actually get it. And then like even California said, well, hey, if you get solar, you actually have to pay a tax on that now. So like the incentives, like they're taking away the incentives. Like at first it was like, oh, we're going to pay you for your power.
Why do you think it's happening? Like, are they being hypocrites? Why government changed their mind? Is it because we used to be like green and let's go for it, but
dark ages? We're in the very beginning stages of electric cars. We're in the very beginning stages of robotics. We're solar. Like they have to iron. Like anytime you're in a new industry, you have to have that spike, but then you got to iron everything out and say, okay, this was deficient. This was deficient. This was deficient. How are we going to correct it? What's it look like? Because Elon Musk, what he says, hey, this is how we should do solar power. Go to Nevada, take 100 miles by 100 miles, put solar, put a 1 mile by 1 mile battery, and then you can power the whole United States. That's what he said. And I kind of agree with him. But, you know, like I said, I'm providing a service to help homeowners. And every single day we're helping, you know, probably 50, 60 homeowners a day. Right now we're doing probably almost 50 jobs a day. And that was my goal, to help iron out some of the industry.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I agree with it, but like the sun power is so powerful. We just don't. I mean, we have nuclear energy and all of that, but like the sun power, you know, and we have so much land is not developed. So I was like, Elon Musk is freaking genius.
Oh yeah, he is.
You've described solar maintenance as your passion. What do you like most about your job?
I like being an industry leader. I like paving this roadway because one day, like, I'm not gonna be in the industry, and people, I like want people to know, like, hey, we paved the roadway, like we did everything correct. Because when I started off, I wasn't doing everything correct at all. I was taking shortcuts. I was trying to be the cheapest guy, and I said, no, man, I'm gonna be the best. And I had to decide that, and that's kind of what I want to leave behind is like we paved the way for, because no one, I mean, it's such a new industry. You never heard of it before, really. Companies that only do this,
What's the biggest challenge for the industry right now? How can it be fixed? Like what's happening right now because I see so many detach and reset companies. They do pop up. It's not it's not as new anymore, and you do have quite a few players.
Yeah, there are. Biggest challenge, I think, is just, and I think it's not necessarily us. I mean, because we do need more people to help. I mean, because you had, like, this year alone, you had Solcius, close to $1 billion company, SunPower, $1 billion company, go out of business. You had, Sunnova's not doing too well, but you had several large, Lumio just went out of business last week. And then people need, like, homeowners need companies like ours.
Why did they go out of business? What's the official reason?
There was this giant spike when there was a giant solar spike from 2014, 15 all the way to 22 when the interest rates were low, and it made sense for everybody. And then once the interest rates kind of went up, the numbers didn't make sense for the sales guys. It didn't really make sense for the companies. And then they kind of overhired, and then they didn't plan for the service work. So a lot of their money was because they said, hey, solar will last 25 years, guaranteed. And it didn't work like that. And then they were dumping a bunch of money into their service industries, and companies like ours were coming in and saying, hey, we'll do all your work. And they didn't plan for, that circumstance to happen. Additional costs, like, because most companies go out of business, like, oh, well, these big companies, you don't realize, like, everything every day is like a new cost. You have something that you have to pay for, and they just didn't account for it, I don't think.
Got it. There has been a lot of federal funding going to solar in the last few years. How does that impact your company? Do you see a need for more funding?
They give that 30% tax credit. I think it helps people get solar. It's not really, it could affect people getting less solar because, like, you're hearing my side of the story because I clean up all the messes of solar. But the reality is there's a lot of great stories of homeowners who are saving. They love their solar, and it makes a lot of sense for them to have solar, and the tax credits definitely can help with that. There could be less solar going on if they take away the credits, which could mean less work for us. But there's enough market share out there right now with all these giant companies that went out of business for the next 5 years to fill the slot, maybe more. I don't think it's too big of a deal. As long as you can pivot, like, that's the thing is, like, if you can pivot, even in roofing, like, if you don't have a storm in Minnesota, are you going to go out of business or are you going to pivot? You know what I mean? Like, if you're relying just on a storm. So I think a lot of it just is how can you pivot?
How do you see the role of solar maintenance evolving as the industry grows? Are there any new technology that you're excited about?
So I think a lot of companies are getting into it. I don't necessarily know if there will be new technologies. I mean, there could be. So when you're doing solar maintenance, a lot of times you're dealing with the manufacturers, that people that actually make the parts. So you have Enphase, Solar Edge, and you have various types of inverters, panels. Those are the people you're dealing with in solar maintenance. So you got to build really good relationships with them. But I think some of these companies are starting to take a hit. So they're going to have to be some kind of adaptation of, like, how are companies going to be able to, like, how are these manufacturers going to be able to flex so that we can make it easier on the homeowners to get everything we need? Or if they go out of business, like, is another company going to take them, But there's definitely, it changes every day. And I think now they're realizing, like, oh, there's a lot more maintenance to be done. Now I'm excited. I'm going to RE Plus, which is the biggest solar convention. It's in Anaheim, California next week, to see exactly, what's going on. Because I think
how big is that?
I think they're expecting 10,000 people. It's like pretty decent size for a solar conference. It's pretty good.
Should I go?
Yeah, you can hang out with us if you want.
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool. I mean,
California?
Yeah, California. Anaheim.
Let's do it.
September 9th. I'm ready. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I think we'll see a lot of changes though, man, because like I said, we're just in the dip. Like we just got in the dip. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. It's hard. I don't know what to predict. All I know is that there's plenty of market share and companies need our help. Like, can consult us to help build out, maintenance departments and actually figure out the proper SOPs on how to work on some of these older systems. So it's just adapting right now.
Got it. No, we're going to attend. I want to switch a little bit to your content creation because not many contractors are good at social media. You have pretty good presence, and I want to talk about your content. I don't always get to talk to other content creators. Is it passion for you? Why did you start doing social media and publish content on a regular basis?
So, I was never the social media type. It wasn't a hobby. I didn't know how. I didn't have any education in. I went to some social media education courses. Like I started hanging around people like, that had a really good brand.
Who inspired you early on? Who pushed you?
Inspired me early on. I would probably say Sam Taggart, man. I really looked up to him and his brand. Yeah, he's big on us. But it was kind of something that I had to learn how to do. It's like, hey man, and it was as simple as like, just post every day. Like that was like something to me. I was like, just post.
What did it do to you? Like once you start posting every day, like what did you notice?
Well, then I started to learn like what the algorithms look like. Then I started to like actually like track metrics. Like I'm getting this many followers. Oh, we're getting this many jobs from social media, and people.
Is this one of your biggest lead generations today?
It's pretty big. And we have a lot. We invest a lot of money into social media. Our social media girl Savannah is phenomenal. Works all day long. She's very passionate about creating the content. Helps me put together my some of my content. But no, it was something we had to build. They said, hey man, if you're going to be if this is the culture, this is the brand you want, then you're going to have to do this whether you like it or not. You're gonna have to jump in and do it. And I've hired people to help consult and they've helped me, build that. And it's just like, hey man, like what do people like to see? And like one thing I'm really good at is like building culture, keeping a really good culture, showing people like, hey man, like going to work doesn't have to be boring. Like if you come to my office, like it is fun. It is fun as hell. People are like, do you guys even work? I mean, we work harder, I think, but it's something everyone wants to be a part of. It's like a movement, and that's something I wanted to get out there and create and express to people and show like, hey man, like this is our culture. Like this is who you're doing business with,
Got it. A few more questions. What's the biggest myth about solar or solar maintenance?
Solar will last for 25 years. I think so.
How long does it last?
It just depends on the equipment. It just depends, man. But like companies like LG, they're like, like our panel guarantees, like these things are supposed to only be lose 1% efficiency. But in reality, typically if we get a call on a system that's about 12 years or older, it's already lost about half of its efficiency.
Really?
Yeah.
In just 12 years?
Yeah. The inverters are going out. The microinverters are going out. But the manufacturers will replace them. However, this is what they don't tell you. It's the homeowner has to pay the labor. And here's the scary thing is 90% of solar companies go out of business within 3 years. And it's like
even worse than roofing.
It's probably worse. Yes. It is worse.
So now you're on your own and you need a licensed electrician to touch it probably because it's electrical units and stuff. Wow. How much does maintenance like that cost per decade? So if you have a 30-year system, every 10 years or every 5 years, if you want to break it down even more, it should cost you.
Well, you got you got to factor in a roof replacement in there. So, you know roofing better than I do. So I don't know
so
what your average
every
ticket
time you
is.
replace the roof, you have to add $5-7 grand.
Yeah, so you add $5,000 to remove them and reinstall them unless you're in like an insurance market, a hail market where the insurance will pay for it. But you have, $5,000 for us, and then you have, what's the average roof ticket? Like 17 grand maybe?
Yeah, something like
So
that.
17 grand. So there's 22 grand right there. But then what if a piece of equipment, what if a big thing we see is squirrels and animals get up under these systems, chew them completely.
They do?
Got them bad. bad issue, especially in Colorado. We see it. We don't see it as much in Florida and Texas, but especially Colorado, we do see it in California a lot. But in North Carolina, we see it a good amount.
And then you have to come out and replace the wires.
You have to replace all the wiring, lift them all up, replace all the wiring. I mean, these things have a lot more maintenance than you'd think, to be honest. Or we just get calls all the time. Hey, my solar's not working.
So
my
what's number
company's
one? What's number one problem? Like,
my solar's not working.
yeah.
Number one issue we see.
Yeah, but what's the problem usually? Like, is it inverter or is it?
Usually number one thing is their monitoring got disconnected. So like people like have an app on their phone. They can say, oh, my solar's producing this much. And then somehow it just gets disconnected and they have no idea. Or their power bills are reflecting that their solar is not working. Like they're paying like a higher electric bill. And those are usually like the two top ones that we see.
What usually causes it? Because the solar still should produce.
Yeah.
So it's just other components, accessories.
Usually when new homeowners switch houses, like if you move and a new homeowner comes in, they have no idea about the monitoring. They have no idea what's going on with the solar at all. So they have no idea. That's probably the most common thing. Is just like the Wi-Fi gets disconnected or it just needs
Just have to teach them.
Yeah.
Do you charge service calls for something like that?
Yeah.
How much is your service call?
$350.
$350 just to reconnect Wi-Fi.
Well, we troubleshoot it. We do a full inspection because we don't know if that's the issue. We troubleshoot it, test voltages, see if we notice anything that needs to be corrected. Get up on the roof and then do a whole report. And then say, if we can fix it within an hour or two, we'll fix it. Otherwise, we come back and say, hey, this is what needs to be done. Here's a report.
Got it. How big is the scam problem in the solar industry?
Well, I think the biggest scams is you have unqualified salesmen out there.
Over promising?
Yeah, over promising. They're saying, and then they're kind of gouging some of the elderly people. Like, because, some people you just knock on their door and they're like, oh, yeah, I want solar. Sign me up, and they have no idea what they're actually signing up for, and then they're like overcharging them. 1, 2, they're putting them on bad roofs. Like if you don't have a brand new roof, you should not be getting solar put on it at all. I mean, I see people putting solar up on 3 tabs. I'm like, how are you out here actually like how are you able to go door to door and do that? Like I think everybody should have to take a test. I think in any type of sales, you should probably have to take some sort of test. Do maybe some sort of background check and actually like have a license to go and solicit to homeowners. That's my opinion. So then you can track it, you can see, and then if they're not doing a good job, then just say, hey, you're licensed. Like you can't knock doors anymore. That's my opinion on it. And that's one of the biggest scams. Or hey, you're gonna get your return in 3 or 4 years. Or hey, there's no maintenance cost. Those are like the biggest scams. I mean, but we see them all the time, especially even large companies, man. Like there's Facebook pages of people just complaining. Like there's 6,000 members on Sunnova's page just complaining about how terrible things have been.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
How can we stop it? Just more education, enforcing.
Well, this is a great step. Getting it out there, letting people know. I think it'll correct, just like market corrections happen. Like I think that now that the solar is in a dip, I think people are going to be much more aware. I mean, I'm trying to get on the news and shout it out and say, hey, like these are things that homeowners should be aware of. Solar is a very good thing if it's done correctly, and just educate on how it's done correctly. I mean, I'm going after Axiom, the largest home inspection company in the country, because I went to their CEO and said, hey, I can train your inspectors on how to actually inspect the solar, so your buyer or seller knows exactly what they have up there and what's going on, because nobody really knows. And especially in a real estate transaction, people don't understand. It's like that's actually a huge divergent. Like people don't really want to buy a house with solar because there's usually a loan on it, and they have no idea what's really going on with it.
Does the loan transfers to the new owners?
2 things can happen. Either one, if you buy a house with solar, the new buyer has to qualify to keep paying the loan, which is a pain. Yeah. Or the seller pays it off at closing is usually how it works.
Yeah, because it's just a liability.
Yeah, exactly. So I think education is just like
it's so messy, because if you have a mortgage on a house, you have equity, and you bought a loan for the next 20, 30 years, wherever, to save money, and then you still have 25 years left 5 years later, on a loan, so you did not save shit, and now you have to pay it off in order to sell the house. That's the dumbest thing ever.
I see it every day.
Really.
Every day. Yep, and that's why we're here. That's what we're doing is educating.
Talk to me about problem. I remember I was in California, and I've heard that California has a big problem with not buying. Homeowners were not buying solar; they were leasing them. So if you have leaks and stuff, you can't even hire a roofer to fix it. Like you pretty much have to go through the company to fix it. And like I remember looking at one job, and the roofer could not do anything because homeowner leasing that solar system. Is the leasing still a big thing?
So Colorado, they said no more because it's a big issue. There's only two companies, I think, like Horton Builders, those big builders. I think it's Horton, D.R. Horton, and like Richmond. They have some relationships that they actually allow that with, but Colorado said no more. This is a huge problem. But in California, however, these leasing, like SunNova does a lot of, SunPower was doing a lot of leases, ADT was doing a lot of leases, and what ended up happening is, yes, if there was issues, then these companies were supposed to come out and solve the issues. Well, here's the thing: if you don't come out in 6 months, your ceiling's caving in. That's the problem. Yeah. So it's like, well, and then the homeowners are like, well, I don't have money to fix it. Like, I can fix it and send you a bill, and it gets really messy because the maintenance wasn't explained up front. Like the conversation we're having is like, hey, like this is what the
and it was bad installs. I've seen the roofs. That was very bad installs.
I have pictures I could show you for days because a big SunNova, they had a major issue in California. They had 468 leaks. They called us up. They said, hey, Hunter, can you help? Because these are all about to go to litigation. I said, okay, well, I'll bundle up. I have 4 or 5 crews down there. I'll take 3 or 4 more. I'll ship them down there. Within 3 weeks, we bundled them all up. But hearing the nightmare stories of these poor homeowners, like I just was like, man, I can't believe how they got overpromised by a salesman. Some of these things, and I mean, they're
it's
coming
worse
out
than
of
roofing, and it's just not fair to the homeowner. That's the biggest problem.
It's not fair at all. That's why I think
like it's your house and you cannot do shit, and it's a roof over it.
Trust me, man. I mean, I've had homeowners crying on the phone to me, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Like I wish I could do this for free. And that's one thing I do want to start dedicating a certain amount of projects that we do, as a courtesy each year is like our mission to rescue and help some of these clients because like they got completely screwed and they don't have money to, fix it and do a certain number of projects. But that's why I'm trying to get on national news and get it out there. It's that the solar.
Well, thank you for coming and bringing awareness to it.
Of course.
What's your boldest prediction you have for the solar industry over the next decade?
My boldest prediction. That's tricky. I think there's going to be an innovation that's going to be more efficient in solar that people are going to start using. You already see them on AC, Windows. I think, or you might see a more simple, I think the roofing shingle, the solar shingles is kind of were dead. They kind of just.
What do you think about GF Solar?
We've thrown a lot of them away.
Really?
They didn't.
Why?
The hail didn't work. They didn't work. They weren't coming out to maintenance them, and the homeowners just were like, "I'm done with these. Like, I don't."
Oh, so not a problem, but like.
I just think they're still in the dark ages. I don't think they're as very efficient. I think there's more efficient products out there. I'm a big believer in solars on the ground. It should go on the ground. But I mean, for this solar, I think this will correct. I think a lot of counties and the country as a whole will step up and make it more professional. Is my hopes. And people will still continue to put rooftop solar up, but I think there will be other more energy efficient products out there that are going to be regularly seen.
Got it. Is America going all in on solar? Why or why not? Is it a thing here, like countrywide? Because we have a huge country, and the solar is still a minor thing. But when you see the Colorado, when you see California,
I do want to say yes. America went all in on solar from probably 2014 to 22. And then,
but now it's pulling back.
And then now they're kind of like, oh, all the credits are pulling back. The money that they promised people for the additional power that they produce, the checks are getting smaller and smaller. So it's like, what's going on here? I'm hoping electricity becomes cheaper. That's what I'm hoping with all these solar panel systems. They're generating electricity that it gets that it gets cheaper. That's what I'm hoping.
But is that the case? Like, is it getting cheaper? Because
Not
not
right
what we
now.
see in the market. Everything is getting more
No,
money.
no, that's right. I don't know if it'll get cheaper. I mean, that's what I hope.
Have you
But I
heard
think,
about 2030 prediction? They say because they're shutting down some like nuclear plants and a few others, but they don't have replacements for them. So like, how do you predict that or plan that, but you don't have a plan B? So when
yeah.
that happens, then we're going to be
I mean, personally, I think they should
screwed.
just hire Elon Musk to be the consultant for how this industry needs to go with electric cars, solar, everything, because he actually knows, like he knows, he has a bigger picture like how it's going to work. Because right now they're just getting all the consumers involved, and all the consumers are paying for the loans to put up the solar. When I think a bigger picture would be just to say, hey, America, like let's tackle this as a whole. This first round that we kind of went through from 2014 to 2022 was kind of, rocky. There's some good things that happened, but there were also some really bad things that happened. Let's adapt. Let's readjust. Let's see what we can do to improve the industry moving forward.
Got it. I've been in China and I was very impressed. I've been in a couple of factories. One factory, they have like this giant TV wall, like showing how much that factory produces in solar. So you go on that roof and it's just like all solar panels, and so loud, like you can actually hear the electricity like pouring.
Wow.
And the whole factory was run by it, and they actually were selling back to the city. And you like hearing it, and they show you the watts because it was very hot in Shanghai, like very hot, very bright sun. Everything was like, woo! You're like, what is happening here? Like they're producing it, and you see the watts. Like, I mean, you can see the whole thing, and they're like so proud of it. And so in China, it's very big. We can fix anything we put our mind to it, but I feel like we don't have commitment. We're like, oh, we're in it. It's kind of good idea. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
And
And politics get involved, and then things
lot.
change, and people overpromise, and companies got a business
Greed
can't
comes in.
fulfill.
The last,
Yeah.
the last topic, the last question that I want to touch on is financing. Would you agree that financing solar is almost as big of the problem as bad workmanship and the rest of them? Because what I do see is it kind of makes sense, but I do see that systems that cost 30,000 are sold for like 80,000. By the time you pay dealer fees, sales reps, like everybody else, and now, it would make sense if that cost 30, but because it's 80 and it's a payment plan for 30 years, that's kind of also one of
Yeah.
the roots. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there were definitely some monopoly companies that were just like coming in, and they were like just jacking their prices up, jacking their dealer fees up, and it made it like really, really challenging. I definitely think that's a huge issue. I mean, they were charging like 20 points. I mean, it wasn't. It was kind of criminal, to be honest. Like, I mean, it was like those payday loans. They were just had all the control, of the consumer, and like these are the loans you have to sell. Like, I think they should have probably subsidize it and gave you like kind of like student loans, and been like, okay, well, if you want a solar loan, then you can take one out at 4 or 5% interest. There's no like mega fees added on, and they have all the control. Because what ended up happening was, this is a huge issue, still is to this day. When you had all these big companies just come in and they installed all these, well, if the solar didn't work and they went out of business, the homeowner stuck with paying the finance company and their electric bill. And we get calls every single day like that, where they didn't connect the grid, because these big companies, even Titan, there were tens of thousands that the solar systems never got hooked up. And then the finance company wants their money, and then the power company wants their money. So you're double paying.
Wow.
And
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. And there's a guy, Green Energy or Pink Energy. This guy was famous for it. He ran the biggest scam in America for solar, and it was a lot of commercial stuff. But basically he came in and was just taking pictures of the panels going up, and then the finance company was issuing the money, and then the homeowners were paying him, but the solar was never hooked up. And then he went out of business. I think he has like federal charges against him, but it was a big scam, and it's not. That's why I think just educating people and doing this properly.
Let's finish on that.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake that contractors or homeowners make when it comes to solar? What advice would you give both homeowners and contractors who are going into the business of solar, or maybe if a roofing contractor wants to recommend homeowner, like when it's a good idea to go solar and when it's a bad idea in your opinion?
Sure. I think it's always a good idea if you have the proper tools. I think if, personally, if somebody's knocking on your door, you just need to double check the reputation. That's why I think like you run a directory. It's like, hey, can I go to a site where contractors are background, where they actually have reviews, like where I can actually see photos of their work? They're not double checking, what's actually going on behind the background. Is this a reliable company? Are they being transparent about the costs? Like, is this actually going to save me money over time? Am I going to move in 5 years? Future thinking ahead. A lot of people, they just say, hey, well, solar's great. I'm gonna go into solar. You know what I mean? And that's just what they do. My electric bill is high. Oh, got to get solar. And I think just doing your research and asking, being like really thorough and actually writing a list of questions out and saying, what happens if this happens? What about this? Like, what are my costs here? Because a lot of them are just getting told by the sales reps, like kind of stuff that they just want to hear. Or is it DIY project? Is that I've seen guys do DIY. I'm like, well, if it works for you, that's great. But I just do more research, really.
What's harder to install, solar or roof, in your opinion, or for DIYers?
Oh, I think solar would be way more complicated. There's a lot of electricity, pairing, monitoring. Roof's more just like, there's less components. You just have like, drip edge, underlayment, shingle.
Love it. Can you name someone who is very good between like common, like someone to follow, who does it right, who you look up to in your space? Who are the good guys in the solar industry?
Well, I think Sam Taggart, as far as like the
Sales.
door-to-door sales and the reps.
What about like technicians and maybe good companies?
The Solar Goat is another one. The Solar Goat's a guy in Utah. He makes very good content on how to do solar the correct way, how to install it the correct way. He's very good. I think Sam Taggart, the Solar Goat.
Give me one more.
I would probably have to say there's a company called Energy Aid out of California that does similar to what we do, and they're really good at educating customers on, like maintenance and costs like that. I would also say there's a company called RDCL, and they're like a go-to, like they kind of fulfill production for a lot of these companies, and they're all about, changing the industry and doing it correctly. There's another gentleman, Smart Solar, who's actually on the national board of like the solar committee for improving solar. His name is Mark, and he's great.
What about Elon Musk from 1 to 10? How good he is for the solar?
Well, Tesla's not doing so hot right now, but I think his vision for solar is great, to be honest with you. But I think he's kind of been like, he's kind of out of the solar, and he's like cars, batteries,
Space.
He's kind of lost his focus a little bit on the solar, to be honest with you. Tesla's really shrunk.
Thank you so much for all your expertise, guys. Comment below what you think gonna happen to the solar industry. If you're a roofing contractor, I want to know your opinion, like how good it is for the consumer. Comment below what you see happening in your state. Every state is different. And where do you see the solar industry in 10 years? I read all of my comments and answer to most of them. See you guys in the next video. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, awesome, man.